Well, 1. The window. The first thing they ever buy from you is your size. You're 13 and you're small for 13, and you have spent your whole life being told that like it's a problem to be solved. Then on a Tuesday in April, behind St. Brendan's where the lot backs up against the alley, a man named Seth points at a brown Buick with his chin and says, "You fit through that." He means the vent window, the little triangle of glass by the mirror that nobody has put in a car since 1996. He hands you a screwdriver with tape on the handle. He does not explain anything else, which you will later understand was not laziness. It was a test of what you would ask. You don't ask. You go through the glass shoulder first, and your hip catches, and then you're inside somebody's car smelling somebody's cigarettes and somebody's air freshener, and you reach over and pull the lock and open the driver's door from the inside. 90 seconds, start to finish. Seth doesn't look at the car. He looks at the mouth of the alley, and then at you, and then he presses a folded 50 into your hand like he's giving you back something you dropped. $50. Seth is 21 and he has never once driven the same car twice. That's the thing you notice before you notice anything else about him, and on this block, that's not a flaw, that's a resume. Everybody's gotta tell. Some men's tell you where they work, Seth's tells you he doesn't. Inside your apartment, the numbers are everywhere and not one of them works. Rent is $785, and the calendar on the refrigerator is a countdown with a magnet holding it up. The light bill on the counter is $212 and printed in red, and it has been printed in red before, and it will be printed in red again, and your mother has stopped turning it face down when you walk in because there's no point anymore. Dolores works the laundry floor at Mercy General, night shift, 11 to 7, $11.40 an hour, and she comes home at 8 in the morning smelling like steam and bleach with her hands swollen and pink to the wrist. Your sister Nia is 8, and her inhaler is $63 with the card and $190 without, and there are months when the card lapses because of paperwork, and there is a specific silence in your house on those months. You do the division standing right there in the kitchen. $50 against $11.40, $4 hours and 23 minutes of your mother's life, standing in that heat, for what you made going through a triangle of glass while her shift hadn't even started. You are 13 years old, and the arithmetic goes into you like a splinter goes in, sideways and deep and impossible to see from the outside, and you will be running that same subtraction in your head at 40 years old, in rooms with good lighting. You don't tell her, nobody sits you down and teaches you that rule. It arrives already installed. Next week it's not a window. It's a parking lot 2 neighborhoods over, and your job is to walk. Just walk past 4 rows and note which cars have the same dust on them they had on Monday. A car that hasn't moved in 3 days is a car nobody's going to miss until Friday. Seth calls those cold. He calls the other kind hot. You are 13 and you have just been handed the first business vocabulary of your life, and every word of it is a word designed to keep another word out of your mouth. By June, you can read a whole block in one pass. Which windows have eyes, which porch light is on a timer and which one means somebody's up, which streets get the patrol at 20 past the hour. You thought you already knew this neighborhood. You're only now finding out where you actually live. Then in July, Seth says there's room in the bay. Real hours, real money, and he says it the way men in other buildings say the word promotion. You say yes before he's finished the sentence. You think you just got hired, you just got inventoried. Level 2, the bay. The shop sits behind a fence on Ludlow with a sign that says auto glass and a gate that hasn't been opened to the public in 9 years. It runs on rules nobody writes down, and the first one is that the door comes down before the lights go on. The second is that nothing leaves in a pocket. The third is that you don't say the word. Nobody out here says stolen. The word is sourced. It's a business, and businesses have vocabulary, and vocabulary is just a place to put the parts of the truth you don't want to carry. Here is what you learn in that bay before you turn 16. A car is not a thing. A car is a bag of parts holding still. Give 4 men 4 hours and a Silverado stops existing. Doors, hood, tailgate, front clip, the harness pulled out in one long nerve, seats, wheels, airbags, the converter cut off underneath with a saw that makes a sound you can feel in your teeth. $75 a door, $400 for a clean set of wheels. $300 flat for the unit if you're on the crew that takes it apart. What's left of a $46,000 truck after 4 hours fits in the bed of a different truck and looks like nothing at all. The bay belongs to Bug. He's 54, or he says 54, and he's been in that building since the 80s, and he can pull a dash in 11 minutes without breaking a single clip, which is a thing nobody under 40 can do anymore. He sleeps on a cot in the parts room, not sometimes. He lives there behind a rack of bumper covers with a hot plate and a radio and a coffee can of loose bolts he sorts when he can't sleep. Everybody feeds Bug. Everybody gives Bug a ride. Nobody in that bay wants to be Bug, and it takes you 2 years to work out that Bug is not a character in this building. Bug is what this job looks like when it's finished with you. You're 16 when Wendell Nash catches you standing outside his shop on Cutler Street, looking at a charger on his lift. Nash's auto body, 3 bays, a paint booth he pays on monthly, 31 years at that address. He wipes his hands and looks at you a beat longer than a man looks at a kid he doesn't know. $9 an hour, he says. Sweep, sand, learn. You tell him you make that in a night, which is the truest and stupidest thing you have ever said out loud. Nash doesn't argue. He points at the broom hanging on 2 nails by the door and he says, I don't hold jobs open. But that broom's on the wall, and only one man at a time gets to touch it. Right now that's nobody. Then he goes back inside. You will not think about that sentence for 7 years. It will be waiting for you anyway. At home you start leaving money, not on the table, because the table is a confrontation. You fold it into the toe of her work shoe by the door, $200, $300, and it comes back to you every time in your coat pocket, unfolded and pressed flat, which is worse than an argument, because ironing it took her time and she spent that time on purpose. Your best friend since the 4th grade is Rome, and Rome works the same bay, and Rome carries a page in his wallet folded to the size of a stamp. A used Freightliner, 2007, $31,000, torn out of a Trader magazine at a truck stop when he was 14. That's the plan. Owner-operator, his own authority, his own name painted on the door of a truck that nobody can take. Out here, everybody carries a picture of something. It's how you all agree to believe this is a hallway and not a room. The only thing you own with a name on it is your grandfather's socket set, a full Craftsman rollaway from 1971, with his initials filed into the ratchet handle by hand. RJT, every piece of steel in your life has somebody else's paperwork behind it. That one has a name filed into the metal. You will find out how much that matters later, and it will cost you $180 to find out. Level 3, the order. At 17, they stop telling you what to take and start telling you what to bring. The list comes on a phone that is not your phone. Year, make, color, trim, sometimes a mileage ceiling. $1,200 a unit delivered to the gate on Prentice. Move 3 a week and that's $3,600 at 17 years old in a neighborhood where a grown man with a badge and a boss takes home $700. That's the brochure. Here's what nobody prints. The $1,200 is the ceiling and it is not a floor. If the car gets recovered before it's cut, you eat it. If a lot has a camera nobody scouted, you eat it. If it's flagged and it comes back on the gate, you eat it, plus $200 a night in bay time if it sits. The people above you have arranged the entire business so that the only person in the chain carrying a guaranteed loss and an optional profit is the 17-year-old sitting in a car that isn't his at 3 in the morning. Recovery rolls downhill and stops in your pocket. Every single thing about that arrangement is intentional, and it is written nowhere, and it is understood by everyone. You watch it work on a kid everybody calls Pinto. He goes $3,600 in the hole across one bad November, 2 units back and one nobody could cut in time. Nobody touches him. Nobody has to. They just extend the list. 6 more than 9, and by February the list isn't something Pinto is working. The list is working Pinto. He's out there in the cold on nights nobody should be out, taking cars nobody smart would take, because his math only goes one direction now. You have seen that exact face before, at your own kitchen table on your mother, over an envelope from the gas company. Same collar, different leash. So you get careful the way only frightened people get careful. You deliver early. You never hold a unit overnight. You take the boring cars, the 4-year-old sedans nobody reports fast, over the ones that make your friends make noise. And you learn that the only credit score this economy keeps has 2 questions in it. Does he deliver and does he deliver clean? Your word starts moving through that yard ahead of you, and the word ends up worth more than the money, which is a lesson that will still be true 20 years later in a room with a loan officer in it. At 18, you buy a 2004 Tahoe for $4,200 cash and put it in your cousin Reg's name because your name cannot hold anything. The phone is in a stranger's name and cost you $250 to arrange. The apartment you rent at 19 is in your girlfriend's mother's name. Half of everything you touch lives under somebody else's paperwork. And that's when you see the actual shape of the business, though you won't have the words for another 3 years. You are in the car trade. You have moved hundreds of cars, and what the trade is actually selling is not steel. Steel is common. Steel is everywhere. There is a rusted Corsica on every 3rd street in the city and nobody wants it. What's rare is paper. A title, a VIN that clears, a clean line on a form in a state office. That's the whole product. The men above you are not car thieves. They are paper manufacturers, and you are the raw material intake. Your mother finds the Tahoe key with the wrong dealership tag on it in a jacket she's washing. She doesn't yell. She sets it on the table between you like something a doctor handed her, and she asks one question. Whose car does this open? You tell her it's Reg's. She looks at you for a long time. Then Reg can pick you up for church, she says, and she leaves her own kitchen. She never takes $1, not that year, not the next 6, not through anything that's coming. In the spring, Seth stops touching cars. He starts holding the list, and when a man moves up out here, he doesn't leave a vacancy behind him. He leaves a weight, and he hands it to somebody who's still flattered to be asked. Level 4, the keys. You're 19 and your workday ends the same way every night. Alone, in a back room, blinds down, counting. You run 3 guys now. The technology has changed the job while you were inside it. The vent window is gone. Everything is transponders and rolling codes now, and a programming tool costs $2,800 and pays for itself in 4 hours, and there's a relay box the size of a paperback that will pull a signal out of a house through a front door and hand you a running truck in the driveway. The block has a saying about it. The safest car on this street is the oldest one. You have watched a man in a $90,000 pickup lose it in 40 seconds, and a woman's 1997 Civic sit untouched for 9 years, and there is a sermon somewhere in that which nobody around here is going to preach. 11 units a week at the peak, after the crew and the tools and the bay time and the constant small bleed of doing business in cash, about $2,600 a week stays with you. By 20, there is roughly $60,000 across 3 hiding places, and none of it works. That's the part nobody tells you about money like this. You have more of it than any working man you know, and it can't do a single grown-up thing. It can't insure a vehicle. It can't register one. It can't sign a lease or answer a landlord who wants 2 pay stubs from an industry that does not issue them. Your landlord charges you $400 over market because you pay cash and can never complain to anybody about anything, and you pay a check casher 10% of nothing to make a piece of paper legal, and you pay a man $250 to put a phone in his name. You start calling it the tax on not existing. You pay it on everything you touch. So the money does what fast money does. It leaves fast. It goes on chains and dinners where you pick up every check, and rims for a truck in your cousin's name, partly because you're 20 and partly because $60,000 in a wall is a problem you can only solve $200 at a time. There is a second ledger and it never stops running. In March, one of your guys gets grabbed on the parkway. Bail is $7,500. The lawyer wants $5,000 up front before she'll return a phone call. You pay both because that's the code, and also because a scared 18-year-old alone in a room with detectives becomes a man with stories. Legal fees are not an emergency in this business. They're a subscription, and you're the account holder. Nia has an asthma attack in October, and you pay the ER bill in cash, $1,180, in 20s, and the woman at the window counts it twice and looks up at you once, and you watch her decide not to ask. That look will follow you for years. You sleep in the room with 2 doors. You park facing out, always, every time, and 25 years from now, you will still back into a parking space at a restaurant with valet service and be unable to tell anybody why. Your mother has stopped asking where any of it comes from, and that's worse than the asking, because the questions were a rope between the 2 of you, and one day she just quietly lets go of her end. Sunday dinner gets shorter. She prays over the food a little longer. Neither of you says anything about either one. And somewhere in that year, the counting changes. You still count the money, but you also start counting other things. How many original faces are still out here? How many men above you have lasted 5 years? How many have lasted 10? The number keeps coming up wrong, and you keep running it again like a man re-adding a column he doesn't like. 20 years old, $60,000, 400 cars, give or take, through your hands in 6 years. At an average of maybe $19,000 a car, that's over $7 million of other people's property, and you have $60,000 in 3 walls, and not one object on this earth with your name on the paperwork. You call that freedom. There's a better word coming. Level 5, the crosswalk. The word is velocity, and you don't learn it from a cop or a judge. You learn it from physics on a Thursday at 6:40 in the evening. Here is how the day goes. You're 20 years old and you're at the DMV on Halloway, which is the single most legal thing you have done in 7 years, standing in line to take a road test in a borrowed Corolla for a license you have technically not needed since you were 14. Number 71. It takes 4 hours. You have your birth certificate in a folder, and you are absurdly, stupidly proud of the folder. There's a unit due at the gate that night. Routine. A pickup on a residential street you scouted yourself, the kind of job you've done 200 times without your heart rate moving. So Rome takes it. He gets it clean. He is 9 blocks from the gate. A light at Sumner and 4th goes yellow, and he is 21 years old with a truck that isn't his under him, and he does what everybody in that bay has done 100 times, which is decide the light is a suggestion. 68 miles an hour in a 30. Alvin Reese is 58. He is a retired transit mechanic, and he is crossing Sumner to his own mailbox at 6:40 on a Thursday the way he has crossed it every evening for 19 years. He dies at 9:10 that night at Mercy General, 3 floors above the laundry where your mother is clocking in for her shift. Rome gets 17 years, parole eligible at 11. The entire difference between your life and his, from that night until the end of both of them, is a line at the DMV. You will not renew a license for the rest of your life without your hands going cold in the parking lot. In November, a 16-year-old on your own crew that everybody calls Toothpick puts a car into a retaining wall on the parkway at something over 90 with a cruiser 2 blocks back that had already broken off the chase. His mother has to be told twice because the first time she doesn't understand what the man is saying. He was 16. He had been doing this for 5 months. The last money he ever earned was $300, and it was still in his sock. And it is the only detail from that entire year that you cannot say out loud, not once, not ever, not even 20 years later to your wife. So one night, blinds down, you run the census. 9 men in that bay the year you started. 2 are dead, 3 are inside. 2 are gone in the way where you don't ask and nobody tells you. One is Bug, 56 now, still on the cot behind the bumper covers, still sorting bolts at 4 in the morning. And 0, not one, not a single man, not even a rumor you could chase down and verify, ever got out of this with anything. Then you finally see the machine from above, and it is worse than you thought because it is elegant. Cars come off these blocks at night. They get cut in this bay or they get a VIN off a wreck bought at a public auction in another state, and they get a rebuilt title in an office with a flag in it, and then they get sold to a man in a suburb 400 miles away who has no idea, or they go in a container out of a port to a country where the paperwork never existed in the first place. And the money from all of it does not stay on this block, not $1 of it. It comes here to buy hands and it leaves the same night. You've been calling yourself a businessman. You are the intake end of somebody else's paper mill. Detective Mock starts saying your name when he rolls past. Just the name, pleasantly, the way a man confirms a Tuesday appointment. There is a file somewhere with your name on the tab, and it is getting heavier, and you can feel the weight of it from across the city. You go into Rome's room the week before his mother packs it into boxes, and you take exactly one thing off the dresser, a page folded to the size of a stamp. You don't ask yourself why, you just know it can't go in a box. Level 6, the gate. You can't quit the street because quitting implies it was ever a job. What you can do, if you're early enough and boring enough about it, is settle your account and ask to be let out the front. Sabo runs the yard on Prentice. He's 57 and he wears a fleece vest with the yard's name stitched on the chest, and he keeps a clipboard, and he has never once raised his voice at anybody in his life because he has never needed to. You bring him everything, the programming tool, the phone that isn't yours, $3,800 you technically still owe on 2 units that went sideways, and you lay the whole thing out flat on the desk. The detective, the file, Rome, the fever math of a DMV line. Sabo doesn't count the money right away. He looks at the tool for a while. Men don't leave here, he says. They get subtracted. You're the first one in 9 years who came in the daylight and put something on the desk on the way out. He slides the tool into a drawer like a returned library book. You didn't own any of this. You were renting it, same as you rented every plate and every phone and every name you ever used out there. Word gets around inside a week, because word is the only thing this neighborhood manufactures locally. 9 days into your retirement, your Tahoe comes off the street in front of your own building at 4 in the morning, and there is $9,000 in the driver's door panel, because that is where you have kept your money for 3 years, because that is where you always used to find other people's. Somebody who learned it, the exact same way you did, takes all of it. You know 2 of the 3 names within a month. You do nothing. Getting it back would cost more than the money, and everybody involved understands the price, and that is the last piece of street arithmetic you will ever run in your life. Some debts you just eat. You eat this one standing in an empty parking space at 4:15 in the morning, and it goes down easier than you expected, and that is how you know you're already gone. What's left is about $31,000 in cash, and here comes the joke nobody warns you about. It barely works. You always assumed the hard part of this life was getting the money. The hard part is converting it. Every real door in the adult world asks one polite question, and the question is, where did this come from? And you do not have an answer that any form on earth will accept. So the money that cost you Rome and toothpick in 6 years gets spent like a teenager's allowance. Rent, groceries, a mattress, a phone bill, $40 at a time for 2 years. Fast money's last insult is how slowly it forces you to spend it. In the second year, you carry your grandfather's socket set out to the flea market on Route 12 and sell it to a man named Ivo who deals in tools out of the back of a box truck. He turns the ratchet over in his hand and finds the initials filed into the handle and looks at them a long time. 180, he says. Then when you don't move, he writes something on the back of a card in pencil and puts it in your shirt pocket without looking at you. I hold things. Some of them I hold a long time. Don't rush back. You are 23 years old on a Monday in March when you walk down Cutler Street and stand in the doorway of Nash's auto body. Nash is grayer and thicker through the middle. The broom is hanging on the same 2 nails by the door. He looks at you for a long moment, long enough to cover everything the two of you are agreeing not to say. $11.50 an hour, he says. Nobody's touching that broom right now. Level 7, the broom. Your first check is $389.62, and you stand in the alley behind the shop and look at it longer than you ever looked at 40 times that in a rubber band, because this money exists. It has a paper trail. It has your name spelled correctly across the top of it, and it can walk into a bank in the middle of the afternoon. So do you, 23 years old, opening a checking account, palms sweating like it's a traffic stop, and the woman helping you is 22 and bored and has absolutely no idea she is performing a baptism. Your credit score is nothing, which you note on the sidewalk afterward is still better than the other economy, where you started at less than nothing wearing a collar called a list. Secured card, $300 limit, gas only. Paid in full every Friday, early, because you already know exactly how this works. Both economies keep the same 2-question score. Does he pay? Does he pay on time? And here's what nobody expects, least of all you. You are extremely good at this. You know how a car comes apart, which means you know how it goes together, and there are men with 20 years in a body shop who have never once seen a vehicle disassembled at speed by people who did not care about putting it back. You can pull a dash in 9 minutes. You can hear a bad clip. You can look at a quarter panel and tell Nash what it's going to cost him before he opens the estimate software. Then in your 4th month, a woman brings in a recovered Camry, stripped, sitting on rotors in the tow yard, and you stand in front of it and you understand with total clarity that you used to be what happened to this woman's car. You do that job yourself. You do it at cost and you tell Nash it took you half the hours it took you. He knows. He lets it go. Neither of you ever mentions it again. Nash teaches the rest out of a composition notebook he's kept since 1988. Door rate, cycle time, paint cost per panel, why the insurance work pays slower but never stops, why a comeback eats the job and the next 2 behind it. He tells you the whole business is 1 sentence long. Fix it like the person driving it is somebody you know. Everything else is bookkeeping. You get certified. $45 a test, 8 of them over 3 years, and a card in your wallet with a state seal on it. And it is the second piece of paper in your life with your own name on it, and the first one was a license. 26 months after Route 12, Ivo's box truck is at the same flea market, and he sees you coming across the gravel and goes into the back without a word. He comes out with a bundle in a shop rag. The whole rollaway, every socket cleaned, the ratchet oiled, RJT still filed into the handle. Told you I hold things, he says, and he will not take $1 over the $180, and he waves you off before you can get a sentence out. You write Rome every month, $100 on the books, a letter, photographs of nothing much. In year 6, his mother stops writing him and you don't ask why and he doesn't say. You learn from a paralegal in a 2-line email that a vehicular homicide conviction means he will never hold a commercial license. Not at 32, not at 60, not ever. You sit in the shop parking lot with the folded page from his dresser in your hand for a long time. Your mother's medical debt is $4,920, and you pay it in 1 certified check at 26, and she cries at the kitchen table with her hands over her face, and it is the first money from you she has ever kept. Nia goes to community college for her associates in respiratory therapy, which is not a coincidence, and you pay $2,140 a semester with a check that clears. At 31, Nash's shoulder gives out for good, and his wife has been retired for 4 years and is done being patient about it. He names his price on a Wednesday at the counter, flat, the way he'd quote a Fender. $185,000 for the 3 bays, the booth, the customer list, and the name on the sign. You have $21,000 saved out of paychecks, and you know standing there that the $21,000 outweighs every wall you ever hid $60,000 in. He takes it as the down payment and carries the note himself, $16.75 a month for 9 years, his name on your paper. Halfway through signing, your pen stops because you recognize the instrument in your hand. Take now, pay later, your name on the risk, delivery due whether the week cooperates or not. It's an order sheet. It is the exact same machine you ran for 6 years with one single difference, and the difference is the whole world. The man holding this debt is sitting on the other side of the counter, openly rooting for you to make it. That is the entire distance between the two economies you have lived in. A debt can be a hook or it can be a handle, and which one it is has nothing to do with the paper and everything to do with what the man holding the other end wants for you. Level 8, the title. In your 3rd year of owning the shop, the landlord raises the rent 24%, and you sit with the ledger at 2 in the morning and start laughing alone in an empty building because you have finally seen the shape of your own life. You spent 7 years taking things off streets. You have never once owned anything the street sat on. The building is $310,000. The bank says yes. The bank says yes to you, and the loan officer shakes your hand across a desk, and you think about a 20-year-old with $60,000 in 3 walls who could not have financed a lawn mower. The bank did not get kinder. Your paperwork got legible. Then over 11 patient years, and patience turns out to be nothing but discipline serving a longer sentence, a second shop out by the county line. Then a tow yard, 6 trucks, and then the thing that still doesn't feel real when you say it in a room, the city rotation contract. You spent your youth taking cars off streets in the dark for $1,200 apiece. Now you do it in the daylight with a light bar, a camera on the dash, and an invoice with a purchase order number on it. And the difference between those 2 jobs is not the truck and it is not the skill. It is a piece of paper in a filing cabinet downtown. Sabo's yard on Prentice goes to auction in the 7th year after a federal case with 14 names in it, and you buy it, and you put a collision shop in it, and you have never once told a single employee what used to get decided at that gate. 2 shops, a tow yard, 4 buildings, 19 people on a payroll that has never been late, not once, real payroll with withholding and dental, because you carry a forensic memory of what a short envelope feels like from underneath. On paper, it comes to a little over $3.1 million, and every dollar of it has documentation under it, and that is not a small thing, that is the entire thing. The damage stays where it is. You back into every parking space in the world. You cannot walk through a lot without reading which cars haven't moved. You have never in 20 years left a vehicle running unattended, not for 10 seconds, not in your own driveway with the front door open. You keep copies of every title in a fire safe, and you check them for no reason at all, maybe twice a year, and you don't explain that to anybody, and nobody asks. Bug is 68, and he is on your payroll, and he has an apartment with a real bed in it, 2 blocks from the cutler shop. He pulls a dash in 9 minutes now instead of 11, and he is faster than every kid in that building, and he teaches all of them, and they call him professor, and he pretends to hate it. Rome comes home at 32. You are in the lot at 7:40 in the morning when he walks out. The truck is in your yard with his name on the door, a used Cascadia, $62,000, and he will never be allowed to drive it, and both of you know that before either of you says a word about it. So he runs your dispatch board out of a trailer with 3 monitors in it, and he is better at it than anyone you could have hired, and he built the routing that saved the tow side $40,000 in fuel last year, and it is not what the kid with the folded page in his wallet wanted, and he says so about twice a year, and both of those things are true at the same time. You have stopped trying to fix that. Some things you carry in the truck with you. Every February, a title company sends a payment on the property taxes for a house on Sumner Street. It goes through 3 names before it gets there. Mrs. Reese is 71 now, and she believes it is a clerical error in her favor, and she stopped questioning it around year 4. It fixes nothing. It does not move 1 gram of the weight. You do it anyway, and you will do it until one of you is gone. Your mother stopped working at Mercy General at 61, and the car in her driveway is a Camry with 19,000 miles on it, and the title has her name on it and only her name, and she has never once let anybody else drive it. And when the insurance card comes in the mail with Dolores on it, she puts it in her purse like a passport. 7 kids off these blocks have worn a shirt with your shop's name on it. 2 stayed. 1 runs the county line location. The others went back, and you keep their applications in a drawer by the counter anyway, and you have never made a speech about it to anybody, including them. Then it's a Thursday in October, and you're standing at the window of the cutler's shop with a coffee, and across the street at the mouth of the alley there's a boy on an upturned milk crate. 13 maybe, small for it. Elbows on his knees, doing quiet arithmetic in his head, and you know that equation by heart, because it's a light bill printed in red and a tired woman on a night shift and a margin of exactly 0. A young man walks up, good jacket. He crouches down so they're eye level, which is the part they always get right, and he points at something with his chin and says maybe 9 words. The boy looks, the boy laughs, then the boy listens. Something folded changes hands. It's always something folded. You could cross the street. Some days, some kids, you do. $17 an hour, a uniform with his name stitched on it, a broom on 2 nails that only one person at a time gets to touch. Today you stand in your own building, on your own paper, and you watch because you know exactly what a folded 50 sounds like to a boy doing his mother's math, and you know that there is no speech on this earth that outbids it in the moment. Tonight he'll count it twice under the covers and feel, for the first time in his life, like the numbers finally work. He thinks he just made $50. He thinks the window is where the money starts. You know what it actually is. It's the first thing anybody ever took from him, and it wasn't the car. He doesn't know the price yet. He will.